Welcome to episode 107 of Little Big Knits. It's nice to have you here. Thank you for joining me, and welcome if you're new. I am coming to you from Ottawa, Canada. My name is Selma, and I live here with my family and a couple of gnomes, and a cat and a dog as well. I hope this podcast finds you well. I hope that you have had a lovely holiday. If you happen to celebrate in whatever way, there are actually 3 different celebrations happening at the moment: Kwanzaa, Hanukkah, and Christmas. So perhaps you're partaking in one of those or more than one, who knows? But whatever the case, and hope you are enjoying your time. And it's nice to come in for the last episode of the year. We're here in the Twixmas season, and things are quiet and calm, and my gaze is turning towards 2025. I have to say, as soon as, even before Christmas is over, I'm starting to think about New Year's and what is going to happen in New Year's and my challenges and so forth. So before we begin, I just wanted to tell you a little bit about Patreon. I've started a Patreon. We've got people there. We're going to have a couple of things going on there in case you want to check it out. I'm going to be starting a series on sweater modifications. We've had a couple of questions that are actually really great fundamental questions, and we're going to start talking about that. So if that interests you, go ahead over there and check it out. And we're also going to be doing a year of personal challenges. That is going to be for anybody who is a member of Patreon, whether it's a free or a paid member. And we'll be doing that over there. So if you're interested in either one of those things, the link below, you can click on it and check out my Patreon. So thank you to those of you who have supported the podcast financially through Ko-fi or through Patreon. Thank you to everybody who has liked and subscribed and commented over this last year. It's just so lovely to have you here in whatever way you are. So thank you, thank you, thank you. One reminder, last time I showed you guys my new staff vest that I'll put a picture over here of it's not out yet. This is a design by Rebecca Clow. It's coming out as a vest, as a cardigan, as a pullover. And I made the vest version as part of the test knits, and I used some beautiful merino yak yarn from Your Next Knit. And I just wanted to remind you that Your Next Knit has a 15% off coupon that you are welcome to use on any of Smita's yarns. So please go and check it out. The link for that shop will be down below as well. Now, in my last podcast, I asked you what you were knitting on, and I got so many interesting things. People are making so many wonderful things. Thank you so much for sharing. And I also was trying to figure out what I was going to call one of my make-alongs. And boy, oh boy, did you guys deliver. We got so many amazing suggestions, actually. And I kept wanting to write them all down, and I thought this list is going to go on forever. So we are going to be having 2 make-alongs in starting January 1st, and they are for the duration of 2025. The first one is going to be the Little Big Knits LBK Shop Your Stash 2025. So LBK SYS 2025, and this is about shopping your stash, whether it is yarn, fiber, fabric, and making whatever you're going to make with those things. With anything that you have in your stash from as of before December 31st, 2024. So basically anything you bought this year or before, or have received as gifts, or even started and have just been sitting around and languishing, this is the time for you to use up those bits and bobs, those yarns, that fabric, that fiber, and get those projects finished. So it's really about going through our stash, and I kind of consider old works in progress, a little bit part of that as well, because they just sit there, and if you don't knit them, they kind of become part of your stash as well, or if you don't make them. So those things will be welcome. Now, our second one is really about highlighting designers who are a little bit less well known, or designs that are less well known. So the idea here is that you're knitting designs that have less than 50 projects. So it may be a Stephen West project, but it's one where there's only 20 projects, and it shouldn't be one that he released yesterday kind of thing. It should be, something that's been around for a little bit. And it still only has, and I'm not going to define that. I'm going to ask you to just be, use your judgment there. Or designers who have lots of projects perhaps, but they generally have less than 50 projects, lots of patterns I should say, but they generally have less projects. They might have one or two where there are more because those ones are well known, but the majority of their projects patterns don't have a lot, and you can choose one of those. Now, I received a very interesting comment last time about somebody saying that they're nervous about choosing a garment pattern by somebody of a pattern that has less projects because they're nervous that it's not going to fit properly. And I think that that is a totally legitimate concern. And so I leave that to you as well. There are lots of things. This could be about socks. It could be about shawls. It could be about hats, baby garments, absolutely anything. But if that is a concern of yours for garments, then, certainly respect that. And, maybe there's a designer that you really respect who tends to have less projects, and, maybe you'll choose one of those, but maybe you'll be a little bit less cautious with other ones. But this is really about celebrating. And so we got lots of different ones. We got the Spotlight Make Along, the Making It a Little Big. We got Little But Big Knits. So those were riffing on the name of this podcast, and I loved those. We got the Less Than 50, the Amplify Mal, the Give It Some Love, the Showcase, and the list went on and on. It just went on and on. And there were quite a few calling it the Hidden Gems, and I have to say that is what I chose. So this is going to be called the LBK Hidden Gems 2025. And so I'm excited about that. I think for this one, we are going to keep it to knitting and crochet. So we're going to keep it to Ravelry. You can use that hashtag on Instagram as well. But that is one other little caveat with this make along, is that we're going to be looking at how many patterns or projects there are on Ravelry, and so there should be about less than 50. If there are lots out there and they're not on Ravelry, that's, what can you do? You have to have some guidelines somewhere. So I'm going to keep it like that. If Ravelry is not accessible for you, you may want to check out the hashtag that we'll be using on Instagram to help guide you. You can also just check in and say, would this one be okay? I don't know how many projects there are, and I'm happy, or somebody else will be happy to check that out for you. You can get in touch. But we will have groups in Ravelry for both of these make-alongs and the hashtag on Instagram as well. They're both make-alongs will go all year long, and there will be some prizes at the end. So there you go. All right, for today's show, I'm going to tell you quickly about 3 finished objects, finished projects. Essentially, one is actually not, but that's okay. I finished what I wanted to finish on it. And then I am going to tell you about my best makes of this year. Not all of my makes, but what I would consider my best makes, and I'll explain what that means, and then a couple of disappointments, and I'll explain those ones to you. And I will then also already start talking about designers, because I am going to be focusing on 2 or 3 designers every episode to highlight less known designers, and I will be creating a bundle. So every time the designers will be added to this bundle, so that that will be on Instagram, that will be on Ravelry rather, and you can click on it and check out the designers and check out their designs. So that's how we'll be ending off the podcast today. All right, let's go. So for December, I wanted to do 3 things. I wanted to make a gnome. So there's a little gnome in the room. I wanted to finish color work on a pair of socks, and I wanted to finish my crochet blanket, on which I just have the border left. It's about a twin size crochet blanket. I did not finish the blanket, and I decided that I'm going to make that one of my January goals, is to really finish it completely, meaning all the ends sewn in as well as the border finished. So I won't be showing that to you today, but I did get quite a bit of progress on the border. But of course it's quite large, so each row of border takes some time. So I didn't get through that, and I thought that's okay. I want to continue working on it, and I'm going to have the goal of finishing it by the end of January. So the first thing that I wanted to share was Gnatty, the unexpected gnome. And he's a bit of a dancer. He's got these arms that just want to snap their fingers or something. He's absolutely adorable. And he and Nathan have become fast friends. This is the one that I made last year. Both of these patterns, this is Nathan and this is Gnatty, or Gnathan and Gnatty. They are both designs by Sarah Skira of Imagined Landscapes. And this was my first one, and it took me some time. It was also a much more detailed one because it's got cables all over it and stuff, whereas this guy was quite simple. But they're built the same way, and so it was so much easier to get through this one. And he's a little wonky because Selma did kind of do things somehow off center, and his body increases are sort of off center. And then I ended up sewing his beard on, and his nose is slightly off center, and then his arms aren't completely symmetrical. So he's just a little bit of a wonky guy, but we do like him, and I'm really happy with him. Now, I cannot remember what yarn this is, but this is the West Yorkshire Spinners BFL sock in their Cayenne colorway. I think it was Cayenne or Paprika that I'd made a pair of socks out of a couple of years ago. So I am really enjoying this new tradition of making a gnome every year. Really, really fun. Last year, I put those little round glass balls that you might put in plants at the bottom of Nathan, and for this guy, I used dried black beans. And I think that's gonna be a better way to go in terms of sitting. The beads are kind of separate a lot, and they make him a little bit less stable, whereas this guy is quite stable. So I think I'm going to use that. I'm not concerned about bugs or rodents in any way. So I think we'll be okay, because I remember some people expressed concerns that, using beans or rice can end up causing problems. At this point, I'm not concerned. If it turns out that it does become a problem, then obviously I'll have to revisit that. But for now, I think I will continue to use probably black beans or lentils or rice or something like that at the bottom of these guys. So this was the 2024 gnome. Actually, he was made in 2024 too. I think I finished him in January. And next December, I'll be making a third one. And they're fast friends. They even hold hands. All right, the other thing I finished during the month was this pair of socks that I was making for a colleague who is leaving. Now, she hasn't actually left yet, and I have since decided not to give her these socks. These are socks that I made out of Patons Kroy, out of this colorway. This colorway is called copper something or other, and it is one of these gradient stripy type things. Very difficult to get anything to be really symmetrical with these. And I've since decided not to give these to her because it turns out that her feet were smaller than I thought, and I had already finished at least the first sock, if not also the second sock, when she mentioned this. So I thought, I've had this plan to make socks for the entire team. Somebody else has bigger feet, and these will fit her. So these will be a good color for her. So these are going to go to her instead. And I have started a second pair of socks for the person who's supposed to be leaving. She hasn't left yet. We are anticipating that she will probably leave at some point in January, maybe February. And and I'm going to continue making socks for the rest of the team as well. And I'd like to give them all a pair of socks. I'm going to see if I can finish those all this winter. I have two finished pairs and a third one, and there are 5 people to give socks to. So it's really going to be quite an easy feat. So was that pun intended? I don't know. I don't think so. So there you go. Finished object number 2. Finished object number 3 is actually not a finished object, but I did finish the color work on my Julgubbe socks, and I'm so happy with these. So here we are. I have not done the eyes on the little guys, and I'm not totally convinced that I will, but I have finished the color work for the Julgubbe socks. This is a pattern by Annina Juti, and I'll just put a picture of the final pattern there. I have decided not to do the color work on the legs. I'm kind of done with color work for now on socks, and I'm just going to make them plain. But I made it an Advent challenge for myself to finish the color work on these, and I will work on the body of these socks for the rest of the year. And for next December, I will be enjoying wearing these as really very Christmassy socks. So all the Christmas socks that I have so far right now are not like ultra Christmassy, like these just scream Christmas. The other ones kind of whisper Christmas a little bit. Really enjoyed this, great pattern, and I'm glad to finally have done a little bit more color work on some smaller circumference. I don't enjoy it, but I certainly feel more comfortable with it now, and I'm really glad to have gotten through these. There are definitely spots that are a little bit less smooth and well done, but I'm okay with that. The one issue that I'm going to have is that I ended up making these socks on larger needles. I ended up making the color work on larger needles. I used a small needle here because often people suggest going up a needle size. For sweaters, I really don't need it. And for socks, I don't think I really need it, except that I think it allowed me to make things a little bit looser so that it goes over my foot. I think next time what I would do is probably use the same size needles that I want to use for the rest of the sock and make a larger size, I think. So I used a 2.75, and I think I'm going to continue using a 2.75 because my color work is quite loose. It always is. And so if I go down to a smaller needle size, I think it'll be very obvious. So I need to ponder that, but that is my thinking at this point. But really happy to have gotten through the color work of these two. And so now I can say that these socks are on their way, and next December, I'm going to enjoy wearing them. So let's start talking about the best projects of 2024. So the criteria for this is that I really enjoyed making it, and or have just wanted to wear it a lot. And so it's something that I've just been drawn to, and I've worn it a lot. In the works that I've made this year, and honestly, I didn't actually count how many projects I made this year of all kinds. I didn't make a single shawl this year. I made a couple of hats. I've made quite a few gifts. I didn't really make socks for myself, but I did make some socks for others. I think I counted, and I think I had 15 garments that I made this year. And I have chosen 9. And one of them is my own design, my own sort of improvisation. So I wanted to add it in here because I really did wear it a lot, but we'll get to that in a moment. So the first one that I wanted to mention, and this is not in chronological order, it's sort of, when I looked at my project page, I was like, that one is the one I definitely, and then, yeah, that one. And so it's sort of in the order of attraction, of just me going, yes, I've loved that one. The first one that I want to mention is the Rivendell vest that I made. The Rivendell is originally a sweater by Sari Nordland, and I made it last year, or this year in 2024, as a vest. I simply didn't add the sleeves, and I added ribbing to where the sleeves would have gone instead. Picked up and just did some ribbing. I really enjoyed making this sweater or this vest. It's a beautifully designed top, really nice details to it, lovely stitch pattern, cool construction. And I made it out of Winterburn, which I believe is a discontinued yarn, but it's a BFL Massam combination by Baramu, and it's a lovely, lovely yarn. So it was a beautiful knitting experience, and also I have just wanted to wear it a lot. I wear it with a dark gray shirt that I have, or a white shirt underneath, or I've worn it with a long sleeve t-shirt even, and my jeans, and I just really enjoy wearing it. I don't know if it's the best looking thing on me, to be honest, but I just love wearing it. Like, I just don't even care. I just love it. And I don't say that it's not attractive on me. I'm just sort of saying, you know, it's like that sweatshirt that you want to wear all the time. So this was number one for me. Definitely one of my favorite makes from this year. Number two is a recent make, but I have wanted to wear it all the time, and I've had to stop myself from wearing it all the time, and that is the Staff and Vest. So this is the design that I tested for Rebecca Clow, and I already mentioned it to you earlier on when I talked about the yarn that I used. I used the Lang Yak, which is a worsted yarn, and a stunning, stunning, very light and airy yarn. And not very warm, as I mentioned to you in my last podcast. But this vest is a little different from my other vests because it's a little longer. I went a little longer on it. And the thing that's great about that is that it makes it also just feel cozy and easy to wear. Cropped things are great, but they are a little bit less cozy sometimes, and I feel like you need to style them in a certain way, whereas when things are a little bit longer, there's just a certain ease and coziness to them. So the Staff and Vest is one that I really, really love wearing, and it's just comfortable and lightly warm and a nice looking vest and a nice design. It just ticks all the boxes, and I really enjoyed making it as well. Number three is this version that I made of the ranunculus by Midori Hirose. As you know, I've made many of them, and I happen to be wearing my Christmas one today, which is a lovely version that I really, really like a lot. But this last year, I made this bright sort of almost not fuchsia, but I'm not quite sure what you would call that. Is that an orchid pink version that I made out of two cobweb strands of cotton and two strands of mohair. Cotton is from Casasol in Spain, and the, oh my goodness, what were they called? Wojciech yarns out of Poland, but I bought the mohair at Barcelona Knits. This one ended up a little bit cropped because I ran out of yarn. However, I find I want to wear it all the time. I have this striped long sleeve t-shirt that I wear it with all the time as a nice easygoing outfit with my jeans, and I just really, really like it. I enjoy making the ranunculus. It's a fun sweater to make, and I've made it in all kinds of different versions. And this one was the first vest version that I made, and I really, really like it. I really want to make a dress. I really want to make a ranunculus dress. So let's see if that happens this year. Perhaps I should set that as a goal. That would be a good idea. Anyway, yeah, that was make number three that I wanted to share with you. Make number four is a summer knit, and that is the Anchor Tee. The Anchor Tee is a design by Petite Knits, and I made my version in a fingering weight yarn. It's a 28 stitch pattern, and I made it out of Knitting for Olive cotton merino. And I wore this all the time this summer with skirts and high-waisted pants. It is a little short, and I have to say, I think it shrank somewhere along the way. So it's definitely on the crop side, but I've really enjoyed wearing it. I made a blue skirt this summer, and I wore it with that. I've worn it with high-waisted, other high-waisted skirts that I have, and pants as well. And I really just love the kind of almost crew neck feeling of this top. And the yoke construction with a little bit of raglan, which is also in the ranunculus, is just very, very nice fitting. I could see myself making another one of these because it's been really, really a lovely, lovely make and a lovely wear, and I really enjoyed working with that yarn as well. However, I had put it in delicate wash, and I think it has shrunk a tiny bit. When I took it out at the end of the summer, I washed it and I was like, oh, wait a second, this seems a little bit tight, feeling like the fabric seemed a little bit more dense. So let's see what happens. I put it away because it was that time of the year. I didn't try it again, but we'll see what happens. If it has shrunk, then I clearly am going to have to make another one. All right, that was number 5. Number 6 is the party line scarf. I'll put a picture here. This is the first design by Casey Apple, who is the podcaster behind Young Folk Knits. And I think I tested this for Casey. And when I finished it, I thought, oh, this is really cute, but I've actually worn it a lot. I really like the smaller scarves. I find them very, very handy. And the other one that I like a lot is my Sophie scarf by Petite Knits. But this one has just a little bit more heft to it. So it actually covers a little bit more than the Sophie scarf. My Sophie scarf is very dainty and very light. This one I find sort of covers a little bit more of my neck, and I wore it as soon as I finished it in the spring, and then I have worn it this fall and early winter as well. It's a great, simple design and just really effective. So I could see myself making another one of these, or another one of the Sophie scarves, maybe a little bit bigger, because they're just really useful. This one would be very easy to adapt to make it a little bit wider if you wanted as well, and a bit longer. But this one wraps really nicely. It's perfect, perfect, perfect. And it's a lovely color. It goes with many of my coats, and so my fall and winter one. So it's been a great one to have, and that I reach for a lot. Number 7 is also an accessory, and this is the Giselle hat by Camilla Hoyer Adamson. So I knit this in, I guess last winter, and I ended up making a second one right away for a friend of mine. And I have loved this. Now, what I found, I made it with a beautiful DK alpaca that I got from Punto at Barcelona Knits last year. And then I used the Lang Lame Mohair Lame Looks, which is a sparkly mohair. And it's a 2-layer hat, all knit in one piece. You start at the crown of the inside of it and you finish at the crown of the outside of it, and it folds very naturally, which is nice. And I just really enjoyed it. The one thing I was going to say is that the alpaca yarn stretches after a while, so it started to get really big, but I recently washed and it went right back down to its original size. I washed it in delicate with some other woolly things, and it came out great. And I just find this hat really beautiful and kind of a statement piece. I just really, really like it a lot. So I definitely reach for it a lot, and I wanted to mention it. Number 8 is my Mariposa cardigan. Now, I haven't had a chance to wear this one a lot, but when I was looking at the rest of my projects from this year, I just have such a warm and fuzzy feeling about this cardigan because it was just such a wonderful make. I loved the design, and the stitch pattern was so interesting, and it was an easy construction, easy pattern to make, although I did make a couple of bizarre little mistakes in it, but I modified things as well. I moved the button a little higher. I think that was the only modification that I really made. And I really love the fabric. I made it out of Sadness Garn Tunlina, which is a, what was that? Cotton linen viscose blend, I believe, and some Isagur mohair, I think. And so it's not really warm. It's a good transition piece. And I did wear it a little bit in the fall, but I haven't worn it yet this winter. So I'm curious to bring it out. Although I haven't worn it a whole lot, I really have such a great memory of knitting this pattern. And even if I made a rather major mistake and had to rip back, I didn't mind because I was just enjoying making it so much. I would make it again because it was just such an enjoyable make. I really loved the petal pattern in the front. It was just such an effective stitch pattern. And so yeah. Now the 9th one, as I said, is my own design. I made 2 sweaters this year, garments that were sort of my own improvisations, and one of them was this top that I made in the summer out of a Juniper Moon Farms summer solstice yarn, which is a cotton, linen. I think there's a mixture of things in there. There might be a little bit of polyester. I think there are 4 or 5 different fibers in there, but it's predominantly cotton and linen. And I made this top and I wore it a lot with a particular skirt that I made it for specifically, and it allowed me to wear the skirt a lot, which I really like. It's a very light and flowy and flattering skirt, and yeah, I just really enjoyed working with the yarn as well. And so I wanted to mention that as my number 9 of my best for this year. You also know from a couple of episodes ago that I made an open vest, and yeah, I decided not to mention that because I haven't had much of a chance to wear it yet, but definitely this one that I made in the summer I wore a lot. So I have 2, when I looked at what I had made this year, some of the other ones I just didn't mention them. I wear them, but I haven't mentioned them. They're maybe not, you know, like in the top 8, but they're in there. And then there are 2 that I would say I'm a little bit disappointed with. So the first one that I'm a little bit disappointed with is my Spring Line Tee. This is a pattern that I tested by Samantha Guerin. It's a lovely design. There's nothing wrong with the design. I used Knitting for Olive Pure Silk, which I enjoyed working with as well. I did find that the Pure Silk did stretch a little bit, and people have warned that it continues to stretch. And the design is lovely. I liked wearing it. It had I liked making it. It had nice details to it, but there's something about the way it fits or the length that I made it. Something about it is not quite right. And so I had to put this on the short disappointment list. I've seen other people's designs and they look good on them, but somehow mine does not look great. And I have to decide, is it a question of shortening it a bit? Maybe it just needs to be a tiny bit shorter and then it becomes a layering piece for dresses. Or is there something else with it? But I didn't wear it once after I made it because I just couldn't figure out a way to wear it where I felt good in it somehow. Love the fiber of the Pure Silk. It's nice and airy and light for hot, humid summers that we have here. But the top just didn't quite work for me. And I don't know why. So that's my first one. My second one is going to surprise you. And that was this blue version that I made of the Stockholm Slipover by Petite Knit. As you know, if you've been around, I've made 2 other versions. The first one I made was a white version, which I love and wear all the time. And the second version that I made was a hot pink version, which I also liked. And then I looked for the perfect blue, and the vest is the perfect blue. It's the blue that I was looking for. It's really great. But I think I was slightly overzealous in not wanting it to be wide. And I find that it goes in a little bit too much here. It just doesn't seem to fit at the top in a way that I like. And I'm kind of wondering if something in the fit just doesn't seem to fit as nicely as my other 2. That's the thing. I made it a tiny bit longer, but I almost kind of wonder if I should go back and maybe make it more A-line and just have it a bit looser. I'm not 100% sure if, you know, can I redeem this? I still do wear it here and there. I have definitely worn it. I'm just I don't love it as much as I think I should. I love, love, love the color, but I don't love it as much as I love my first two versions. And I think that I probably would have needed to size up a tiny bit, maybe one size up from what I chose. I measured the back of the other two, but I somehow ended up making it a tiny bit narrower. So it's still okay, but it's just not as great. It's slightly disappointing. The color is fabulous, the yarn is beautiful, and I still like the design, and I would make another one for sure, but this one just didn't work out quite as great as the other ones. So that is a little bit of a recap of my best and my not so best of 2024. So given that we've got the two make-alongs starting on January 1st, I did want to take a moment and highlight two designers. Now, when I chose these two designers to start with, I didn't realize that they're both German. So today our spotlight is on two German designers. And the first one is a designer that I've mentioned before. And she was on my list, and I decided to mention her right away because she has offered a discount code. She was on my list to mention this year, and this is Silke Ufer. Silke Ufer Designs. Silke has actually 3 pages of patterns on a Ravelry, and she does have a couple of patterns that have more than 50 that have been popular, and then she has many that are not so popular. So she has offered a coupon code or a discount code, I should say, for Selma15 for 15% off any of her designs until the end of February. So if you're interested, click on the bundle below and go and check out her designs. She really has a variety of designs. She's got baby knits, she's got socks and shawls and sweaters for women and sweaters for men as well. So really a great variety of designs. And I have featured some of her patterns before because I've liked her patterns. She's got a couple of tops that I really, really want to make. One is this Henley called the Austern Henley. And it's just a nice, very simple Henley that I thought would look great in the summer. She's also got this lovely countryside cardigan that has some really nice cable details on it that I really like as well. The pine mittens are lovely with this cable type detail on the top of the mittens, and I've actually been thinking I need another pair of mittens. I seem to have bad luck with my mitten making, so have been looking at those. She's got this really nice, very simple mosaic sweater for men called Fine Herb. Just got this nice mosaic detail across the chest, and then there's the B50, which I mentioned recently, and is a cable and a lace fingering sock pattern. So this is just a little taste of what Silke has to offer in terms of her designs, and her page will be part of my bundle on Ravelry if you want to check her out. She's also on Instagram under that name as well. The other person that I have decided to mention is a man named Andreas Ruthemann. Yeah, Ruthemann, probably. Also German. I don't know why. I thought he was Norwegian, and I think it's or Swedish, and I think it was because of the name of one of his patterns. I've actually been following his work for a while because he also just makes beautiful patterns. He knits patterns of other people and just styles them really nicely, and I've favorited a few of his makes for Alejandro, and then I realized that he was a designer as well, and so he's got less designs, but really lovely. I think he's got a 1 page of designs and focuses primarily on sweaters and shawls. I would say his work is quite unisex. In fact, his Mulvey pattern or no, Morve. Morve pattern is a sweater, and he's got two versions. He's got a bulky version and a sort of a worsted version. And it's a beautiful sweater that has this beautiful color work on the yoke and on the rest of the sweater as well, the detail at the sleeves and the body for sure. I don't have the picture in front of me right now, so suddenly I'm trying to remember. And he has both females and males who have made this pattern, so I would say his patterns are unisex. He's also got the loom sweater, which is also a 16 stitch gauge, and it has a lovely texture on it. And recently he came out with a very interesting wrap called the immersion wrap, which is kind of a combination of garter and ribbing, and it just creates a very interesting construction and a very interesting look. It looks like a fan, and I believe, if I remember from what he said, he designed this to be something that would stay on during prayer or meditation. So it's just beautiful, and it's a DK weight pattern, I believe. So those are the patterns by Andreas Ruthemann that I wanted to mention. And those are the two featured designers for today. So I hope that every podcast I will be, over this year, I'll be featuring 2 or 3 designers and they will become part of my bundle so that you can continue to look at the bundle, and I'll be adding designers as we go along. So we are at the end of 2024. So Happy New Year. For one, I hope that 2025 will be a good year for all of us. I have a very good feeling about it. I'm hoping that it's going to be a good year, personally, and hopefully it'll be a good year for all of us. Now, I'm excited about this year because this year I did my whole year, instead of choosing a word of the year, which I've done in the past, I decided to do monthly challenges, and I really, really enjoyed that. So much so that I'm very excited about my challenges for 2025, and I'm going to be starting in January with a decluttering one, as well as finishing my crochet blanket. So I'm excited about decluttering a little bit. I had the same need last January, so I did a lot of decluttering last January as well. So hopefully I haven't accumulated as much stuff that I decluttered that I'm going to declutter again. But anyway, hopefully with time there'll be less and less stuff in my life, because I really have this need to get rid of things. So yeah, I'm going to be doing that, and I'm very, very excited. As I mentioned, on Patreon we're going to have a discussion thread for our personal challenges for 2025. So if you're interested in joining in doing some personal challenges for yourself, come on over there. I'm going to be preparing a little video to introduce the whole thing, possibly even today, and then posting it in Patreon to introduce that to people. So whoever wants to join, we may be a handful of people, we may be more, let's see. And I'm also, I decided not to share plans per se. I feel like some things that I mentioned in plans for the fall are still things that I want to make. But certainly I want to get back to knitting the drevo, which is a pattern by Tetilutzak that I started and I kind of put on hold for Advent, and I really want to get back to that. I'm struggling to not crochet on my blanket though. I'm very, very motivated to finish that thing, and I really want to finish the socks for my colleague, but I do want to get back to the drevo and finish that, and then we'll see what happens after that. So there you go. That is what I've got on my plate for the next little while. So thank you for joining me today. I hope you've enjoyed all the chit chat about favorites, not so favorites, some designers, some of my makes. I hope this year is ending well and that 2025 will be a positive year for everyone. That can't be the case, but let's hope. Let's hope. And we will see you sometime in January. Take care, friends. Happy making. Thank you for being here.
Should acquaintance be forgot and never brought to mind? Should old acquaintance be forgot and days of Auld Lang Syne? For Auld Lang Syne, my dear, for Auld Lang Syne, we'll talk a cup of kindness yet for days of Auld Lang Syne. And here's a hand, my trusty friend, and here's a hand of thine. We'll talk a cup of kindness yet for Auld Lang Syne. For Auld Lang Syne, my dear, for Auld Lang Syne, we'll talk a cup of kindness yet for Auld Lang Syne. Should old acquaintance be forgot and never brought to mind? Should old acquaintance